Let's talk the cup. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the cup. Woo!
Well, good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler platform, the Let's Talk to Cutler vlog, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club. And it is another Thursday. I'm so thankful to be here. I'm just glad about this time that we share these 1800 seconds. Do me a favor, if you're stopping by my channel for the very first time, do me a favor and just pull on over, because all I need is about 1800 seconds, because we're talking about inspiration and motivation. We're taking a time to see, or taking a moment to see what lessons did this day present to me. What are some of the things that I learned about myself today? What are some of the things that I now know that will propel me into a better tomorrow? How can I show up tomorrow in a better space and a better person, my most authentic self, my most organic self, all of that. How can I show up better tomorrow than I did today? Not looking at today as a failure or a flop or anything like that, but just taking the time to see, what can I do? What lessons can I learn from today that will make me a better person tomorrow? It's all about progressing, and it's all about just seeing what we can do. It's about being introspective at the end of the day, to see how can I be a better me tomorrow, and not necessarily a better me for anybody else, but a better me for me. All right, so that's what this channel is all about. Again, it's about inspiration, it's about motivation, and it is about sometimes challenging us to dare to see, what can I do to make myself a better me? And it's not always about me looking at anybody else, but sometimes it's so often it's about me looking at me. What can I do to make me better? And so we take this 1800 seconds just to do that, to corporately do some introspection and see what we can do. Now, I just try to lead the conversation. That's all I'm doing. I'm just leading the conversation, and you all are helping me in this situation. So again, if you're stopping by for the very first time, do me a favor, just go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and you'll find that we are a family. We're a community of winners, a community of people who are making it through, a community of people who are heading to the space that's called better, and we're doing it together. And so after you subscribe, do me a favor and hit the notification bell. It lets you know whenever I've gone live and whenever I have uploaded new content. And then as you're coming to the chat this evening, do me another favor. Why don't you just do a thumbs up on the conversation? It says to YouTube that you like what we talk about. It says to me that you are somehow encouraged by our conversation. I want to shout out the LTTC VIPs. Those are the people who usually run and jump into the chat sometimes before I can get there, but they typically they are the first three people to get into the chat. And so I love shouting them out. And if you want to be a LTTC VIP, just get into the chat first. That's all. Let me just shout out some of my friends who are in this chat who jumped over here first. My good friend Nikki Smith says, hello, everyone. I love when everybody comes into the chat and they just start speaking to people. I'm a Southerner. I'm a Southerner by birth, and I will always be a Southerner at heart. So I love the fact that we come in and we just start speaking to everybody. It makes you feel good when you speak to people, when people speak to you. And then our good friend Paula D also says, hello to everyone. Well, Paula, hello to you, my friend. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. And then rounding out the third position, everybody's being very cordial, speaking to everybody else. Our good friend MV says, good evening, all. Not leaving out anybody. Good evening, everybody. So again, today, Linda, I just have to put this up. Linda says, yes, good evening, everyone. Better today than yesterday. Linda, yeah, that's what this channel is all about. How is today better than yesterday? And how can tomorrow be even better than today? And again, so it's just good to see all of you. We've been reading from this book and discussing topics from this book, When I Am Overwhelmed, How to Handle Life at Its Most Intense Moments, because we know that life indeed can be intense. We know that life can be challenging. We know that life sometimes can just be difficult. Life can be life. Life can sometimes feel like it's beating you up, it's beating you down, it's beating you over. But I want us to all know that we are winning. at life. As long as there is breath in your body, you are winning at this thing called life. I want to pause right there and just shout that from the mountaintops. As long as there is breath in your body, you are indeed winning at this thing that's called life. Earlier today, and I don't even know why I made a note. I made a note that says the only way I lose is because I quit. The only way I lose is because I quit. And I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel. From time to time, I may take a rest break. I may take a rest stop. I may pull over and take a nap. I may pull over and take a vacation. I might pause for just a moment, but I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. I'm not handing in my victory trophy. I'm not going to by default submit my space in the winner's circle. I'm not losing my place on the winner's stand. The only way I lose is if I quit. And guess what, you all? I am not quitting. And I'm encouraging all of us, just don't quit. Whatever you do, just keep going. I was having a conversation with someone some time ago, and as we've been reading from this book, When I'm Overwhelmed, How to Handle Life at Its Most Intense Moments. By the way, if you want to get it, going over to Amazon.com. It is my 6th book, and just search for Gregory Brad Cutler, and it'll pop up, and you can order it and join the conversation. Most recently, we're here in chapter 12, and I'll get back to some of the reading. But one of the things that I want to share with us this evening is don't quit. Whatever you do, don't quit. And I know life sometimes beats us up, and life sometimes presents all of this pain. Good evening to my good friends, Lynn and Sylvia. Sometimes life presents us with all of this pain, and we feel like we're going through it, and we sometimes wonder, when is it going to end? Woe is me. What is going on? But I want you to know, this, that, and I didn't even really quite know how to characterize our discussion this evening. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to call it lessons from pain, or pain has taught me something, or what I learned from my pain. So I think I'm just going to stick with what I learned from my pain. And there are some things that I know about pain, you all. One of the things that I know about pain is that you cannot avoid pain. I was having a conversation with a young lady. She says, I'm always losing. I feel like I'm always losing. And I said, I don't want you to say that anymore. I don't want you to say that you're always losing. But what I want you to say is, I'm always learning. I'm always learning. And I knew the space and the place from where she was speaking. I recognized that it was a place of pain. And I said, I want you to understand, you're not always losing. Just because it hurts does not mean you're losing. You can't avoid pain. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes pain is progress. Think about it. If you go to the gym, if you work out, if you get outside and you walk, if you work in your garden, if sometimes you start working muscles that you haven't worked before, the pain is not necessarily punishment. Sometimes the pain is really a sign of progress. Think about people who have to do the same routines over and over and over. They have to build those muscles. Think about us at the end of the pandemic. Some of the things that we have to go back and we had to start doing that we had not done before. Walking, exercising, or just moving about. Sometimes pain is not punishment, but pain is progress. And if it's not progress, I promise you, pain is a part of the process. You all know, for me, it's always about hope, inspiration, and motivation. Your pain is not always punishment. Many times your pain is a part of your progress. And if it is not a part of your progress, then at least it's a part of the process. Don't see it as losing. Sometimes pain is just there to be a teacher. It's not there to punish you. Sometimes the pain is there to be a teacher. And guess what? It doesn't leave sometimes until we learn the lesson. So you all are getting a byproduct of a conversation that I had with a young lady some time ago, again, who said to me, every time I turn around, I feel like I'm losing. And again, I said to her, you're not losing, you're learning. Your pain is teaching you something. Your pain is teaching you something. Think about it. Sometimes we've had physical pain. I don't know about you, but I grew up in the South, and I grew up in the South, and I knew 4 generations ahead of me: my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, and my great great grandmother. Thank God I was able. I had the blessing of knowing all of them, and so I grew up in some very Southern homes and in some very sometimes basic homes where it wasn't always fancy heat, but there was sometimes wood stoves. Yes, I grew up with some. There were wood stoves, and sometimes there were coal heaters, COAL heaters that were heated by coal. And if, as we say in the country, you mess around and put your hand on that stove, you would never do it again because that pain would teach you something. And so sometimes we have suffered physical pain. Sometimes we have suffered emotional pain, whether it's heartbreak, whether it's discouragement, whether it's being discontent, whether it's just just feeling like you didn't have the wherewithal to go forward. We have suffered sometimes physical pain and emotional pain, but I promise you, your pain is teaching you something. So I want to talk to us tonight about lessons from pain. I want to talk about lessons from pain. Because you can't avoid it. It's not always punishment, but sometimes it just does not leave until we learn the lesson that is trying to teach us. Cutler, what would you suggest that pain is trying to teach us? If there's anything pain can teach us, one of the things it is vulnerability. What on earth does that mean when you say vulnerability? Pain makes you vulnerable to yourself. It teaches you how to confront the good, the bad, and the ugly of what's really going on in your life, whether you want to see it or not. You touch a hot stove and you're going to see a blistering hand. Whether you want to see it or not, you're going to come face to face with what's really going on in your life. It teaches you vulnerability to whom? To yourself. And it would test your character, and it would teach you how to tap into your strength. Pain would then give you the ability to get on the path of personal growth. I'm hurting. I've got to make sure I take care of myself so that I don't do this anymore. It puts you on the path of self-growth. Teaches you how to get on the path, the road, or the highway, and say, where I am now, I cannot always be here. I have to learn to grow beyond the pain that I'm now feeling. So it makes you come face to face with what you're dealing with, whether you want to see it or not. You feel it, you see it, you experience it, you know it, you be it. And you become vulnerable to yourself. And you say, nope, can't stay here. I have to grow beyond this. So it teaches you vulnerability to yourself, and it encourages you to grow. Cutler, what else would you say pain teaches you? Well, I'm glad you asked. I would say that pain teaches you self-strength. It teaches you self-tenacity. It teaches you perseverance. Not that we enjoy it, not that we want it, not that we always want to experience it, but I'm just sharing another perspective of how to see your pain. Don't see yourself as always losing, but somehow see yourself as learning. Your pain is teaching you something. Pain teaches you how not to underestimate yourself. Not to downplay your capacity to withstand the storms of life. That's what pain teaches you. Pain helps you to realize that you really are resilient, and that you really are tough, and that you really can make it. Because if you ever made it through any kind of pain, pain will remind you of every battle that you've been through, every storm that you've withstood, every time you've went through, every time you've gone through, every time you've come through, and every time you've come out victoriously. That's what pain will remind you of. It'll teach you and remind you about your self-tenacity. It will teach you and remind you about your self-strength. It will teach you and remind you about your perseverance. That's what pain, you can learn from pain. Don't say I'm always losing. Cutler, every time I turn around, I feel like I'm always losing. Every time you turn around, perhaps you're dealing with pain. But may I suggest that when you deal with the pain, you're learning. And if you haven't learned those two things, then maybe your pain is teaching you self-love and self-care. I often think about the times that I have dealt with pain, whether it was emotional pain, whether it was psychological pain, whether it was financial pain, whether it was educational pain, whether it was physical pain, whether it was spiritual pain. I've dealt with a lot of pain. Pain that sometimes it seemed to have come from nowhere and will have gone everywhere in my life. That's the kind of pain I've sometimes dealt with. But there's some things that I've learned from pain, you all. I've learned what vulnerability is like. I've learned what perseverance is like. And now I understand when pain comes, it teaches me self-love and self-care. Pain reminds me to take care of myself. The same way you would soak your feet if your feet were sore, the same way you would massage your muscles if your muscles were tense. Pain reminds us to do what's necessary to help heal ourselves and to feel better. Whether it's doing something like taking a shower, taking a long hot shower, going for a nice walk, having a lunch with someone that you trust. Pain teaches you how to be good to yourself. Whether it's taking a break from so many people and so many things, and sometimes just saying, hey, I've got to disconnect. I've got to disconnect. I've got to step away. I've got to debrief. I've got to unload. I've got to unwind. Pain teaches us self-love and self-care. You all know I'm telling the truth, because when you're hurting, what is the first thing you do? You see what you can do to make the pain go away. Why? Because you love yourself. Because you love yourself. I need to put, and I want to know what you all think about pain. What are you learning from pain? Are there any lessons that you all are learning from pain? I understand that I'm sharing this evening and I'm leading the discussion from this end, but there are people who are going to join us for the replay, y'all. And I promise you, they so often read your comments. They so often read your chat notes. They so often read what you have to say to each other, sometimes to me and sometimes to them. Thank you, Linda. Pain can be a warning. I just need to post that. I just want you all to see that. Pain can sometimes be an alert, a warning to let you know something is amiss, something is awry, something is about to happen, something is going on. And Linda, you seem to be reading my mind just by putting that comment there, because one of the things that I wanted to mention and wanted to share, that pain gives us a greater sense of awareness. It really does. So you were tuned in and right there aligned with something that I was going to say. Pain gives us it teaches us a greater sense of awareness. Why would you say that, Cutler? Because pain makes you more aware of what's around and who is around. Yes, it can be a warning. It gives you a greater sense of your environment, a greater sense of awareness about your environment. If you have ever burned your hand, and clearly you all must know that I've burned my hand on a wood stove and a coal stove as well. If you've ever burned your hand, you become more aware when hot items are around. Yep, I've done that before. I've burned my hand before. Let me be keenly aware of what's going on. If you've ever stepped on a piece of broken glass or gotten pricked by a needle, or when I was growing up in the country, even a sand spur or something like that, if you've ever stepped on a broken piece of glass, got pricked by a needle or something sharp, you tend to look out for sharp objects. You have a greater sense of awareness, a greater sense of your surrounding. And then even if not physically, if you've ever been lied on or betrayed or forsaken, you tend to be very aware of people that you cannot trust with your heart. Pain teaches you a greater sense of awareness. You're cautious. It doesn't mean that you trust people less. It means that you are more discerning about who you do trust. You all talk back to me, please. What are some of the things that you know? What are some of the things that you have learned about pain? So many times we all deal with pain, and we take it as I'm being punished. I must have done something wrong. But that puritanical and egalitarian kind of thinking, just remove it. Just get rid of that. Don't see it like that, you all. See it from the perspective of, you know what? This station, this channel, Thank goodness we can sit here and chat with Cutler. We can come on and talk to Cutler and get a different perspective and see that I'm not always losing, but I'm learning. There's a lesson in all of it. And I can apply that lesson. I can apply even in the not so good things that it looks like I'm dealing with today. I can apply a lesson to those and propel myself into a better tomorrow. Thank you, Cutler. Here I am. I thought I was losing until I heard what you have to say. Thank you. I realize I'm not just losing, but I'm learning. And I'm learning how to show up tomorrow and be truly a pain manager. One of the things, I just have to tell you all this. I have to tell you all this. Recently, one of my brothers had hip replacement surgery. And the doctor told him, you're going to have to get to a point where until you're completely healed, you're going to have to get to a point where you're dealing with what they call pain management. Well, you're just dealing with pain management because the pain is not going to go away, but you're slowly going to heal and you're going to get to know more about your body. And so the pain teaches us how to become aware of how to move, how to navigate, how to twist, how to turn, how to lift, how to bend. And so one of the things, and so here I go. I'm telling you all, here is my offering tonight. My offering is simply pain management. My offering is simply pain management. Thank you, MV. MV says, yes, pain does increase awareness. It truly increases awareness. Thank you, Yvonne Jones. Yvonne says, 3/4 of the wisdom I possess, I gained through painful periods of my life. I wish I could pull you through the screen and sit you right here beside me, Yvonne, because that's probably the story of all of our lives. Many of the greatest lessons, many of the greatest nuggets of wisdom that we learned them through painful experiences, and they made us aware. I've dealt with you before, pain, that kind of pain. So I'm aware potentially whenever you're around. I've dealt with you before, pain, and so now I've learned how to heal myself. I learned how to care for myself. I learned how to love myself. I've dealt with you before, pain, and so now I know what I look like when I deal with it. So I'm vulnerable to myself, and I understand what self-growth is. I've dealt with you before, pain, so when I see you again, it is simply a reminder that I've conquered you before, I've dealt with you before, and now I understand the tenacity and perseverance that I have down on the inside. So when I see you again, you are simply a reminder of the strength and the fortitude that I have down on the inside. Pain teaches us some things, you all. What has our pain taught us? You all know I'm only here for 1,800 seconds, but I felt so committed and so convicted to talk about this because I remember my friend's story when she felt like she was always losing. And in that conversation, I remembered myself going through painful periods, and I would always say, why me? What is going on? This is not coming together. This is not how I wanted it to turn out. This is not how I would have written the script for my life. I didn't want it to go this way. And my not wanting it to go away didn't make the pain leave. I love the conversations. Sometimes through what we call the school of hard knocks. You're absolutely right, Linda. But there are things that we learn, you all. Things that we learn. May I just share one more? And I'm not going to take up your time. I just want to share this one more with you. What else, Cutler, can we learn from pain? Pain will teach you who really matters. I wanted to just chirp and make the sound of crickets because you all, pain teaches you who really matters. If you have ever been through real pain and real intense moments, we're talking about how to handle life at its most intense moments. If you have ever been through real pain or really intense moments, you reach the point when you learn how not to sweat the small stuff. You came to a point when you realize some of this petty stuff, some of this small stuff, it does not even matter. Some of these people with the little ideas and the little things that they have to say, it doesn't even matter. And you learn what really matters, and you learn who really matters. You discovered who really matters. Why would you say that, Cutler? Because when dealing with pain and dealing with really intense moments, there are times, you all tell me if I'm on track here, there are times when you had to reset and recalibrate your life. And you had to learn how to sometimes lay aside your ego and lay aside your pride and lay aside. And when laying aside your ego and laying aside your pride, that didn't always feel good. And so you could only do it with somebody that you really trusted. You could only do it with somebody that you really knew had your best interest at heart. You could only do it with somebody who you knew cared about you. And while you were resetting and recalibrating your life and laying aside your ego and laying aside your pride and laying your heart out there for someone else to see it, while you were doing all of that, you discovered who you can really count on. And who would be there during the times of adversity? Who would be there during the difficult times? Who would be there during the dark moments of your life? Who would be there during the moments when you felt like all you wanted to do is get in bed and put your head under the covers? You discovered who would be right there with you. And who would be there to say, I'm not going to let you stay in this dark moment, but we're going to walk out your healing together. We're going to walk out your getting better together. We're going to walk out you seeing yourself as victorious together. We're going to walk out you seeing yourself standing on that winning platform, and we're going to do it together. You discovered who really mattered. That's what pain teaches us. And you learned all of that. And it is my hope that when we learn and have learned all of these things, these are lessons that we teach other people, you all. That is why we spend this time together. That's why these 1800 seconds are so important. Some people think it's about the book. It's not about these books. We've talked about this book. We've gone through what other books have we gone through? We've gone through, and they are here somewhere by me. We've gone through this book. We've gone through I think at one point we even went through this book, but it is not about the books. That is not why we're here. It's not about the books, but it's about empowering ourselves so that we can pay these lessons forward, so we can share with other people. Do you all not know that there are other people in our networks, other people in our spaces, other people in our circles who are dealing with intense moments in life, and they're wondering, how do I make it through? Can somebody help me? Has anybody gone through this and can share from the wisdom of their life, who can share from the school of hard knocks where they graduated with honors? Sometimes people have gone through things and say, I got the t-shirt and the scars to go along with it. Can you all teach me how to make it? That's why we spend these 1800 seconds together. That's why we do it. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for reminding me that we all can continue to learn through our pain. And we can teach others that they're not always losing. Many times they're just learning. And they're experiencing the pain of learning. You all, I want to thank you for sharing this 1800 seconds, wherever you've allowed me to share it with, whether it's your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, your outside walking on the porch, wherever it is. I want to thank you all so very much. Let's keep sharing these lessons with other people. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Let's keep our heads up, keep our hopes up. Stay safe, stay sane. I truly appreciate you all more than you may ever know. Those of you who join me live and those of you who catch the replay, thank you all so much. Please know this, that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Good night. Next time, remind somebody else. Come on, let's talk to Cutler.